Hello, everybody. My name is Amy Nissenson, and I'm the General Campaign Chair this year for the Jewish Federation, and we'd like to welcome you to our virtual campaign beginning. We're excited to have you all here, and thank you for joining tonight. I'd like to thank Fulton Bank, Davenport and Company for helping, and Davenport and Company for helping to sponsor tonight's event. Let me take a minute to thank everyone who is a part of this year's campaign. Cabinet, Jill Goldfein, Sarah Waskin, Brian Green, David Galpern, Elliot Warsoff, Adam Plotkin, Nathan and Annette Shore, and of course our Federation President, Ellen Renee Adams. This year, we celebrate the 85th year of our Federation. For 85 years, we have been building support and sustaining Jewish life here in Richmond and around the world. Over that time, we faced some tumultuous times, and throughout history, the Federation has been there as a guiding light. This year will be no different. The gifts you make to this year's annual campaign are more critical than ever and will ensure that our community comes out of the wake of this pandemic stronger and more vibrant than ever. Making those gifts are easier than ever before, too. Right now, you can text your contribution to 804-331-8311 or visit jewishrichmond.org to make your impact tonight. We would also love to hear from you and talk about how meaningful your gift is. You can email JCFR Director of Development, Jesse Feld, at jfeld, J-F-E-L-D, at jewishrichmond.org to set up an annual campaign conversation. Thank you all for making Richmond's Jewish community such a great place. Tonight, we launch a new speaker series, Community Chronicles, Stories of Resilience, Bravery, and Impact. This series aims to inspire, educate, and motivate our Jewish community's collective and ongoing journey in overcoming obstacles such as anti-Semitism and, of course, the global pandemic. We know that we are stronger when we come together, and that Federation has the unique ability to convene the community and plan for the future. It is now my distinct pleasure to kick off the series and welcome our first speaker, Mark Wilf. Mark is the chair of the Jewish Federations of North America's Board of Trustees, the son of Holocaust survivors, and an attorney and partner in Garden Homes, a real estate development firm. And if that wasn't impressive enough, he is also owner-president of the NFL's Minnesota Vikings. Mark, thank you for being here, and the floor is all yours. Sorry, there must be a technical difficulty, so please bear with us while Mark Wilf signs on.
Hello, everybody. We'll have Mark here in just 2 minutes. Sorry for the technical difficulty. Just hang tight.
Again, sorry, everyone. There seems to be a technical difficulty, but Jesse, our technical person and development person is working on it. So please bear with us.
Hello, Richmond. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but hopefully you can.
Mark, we can hear you. It's Daniel. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you so much for joining us and for bearing with us.
Well, I was able to hear Amy's beautiful words and introduction, so I'll assume we're going to resume right where we left off. And again, sorry, I've been with you the whole time, but Zoom has had a little hitch, but we're back on now, thank God. And I want to thank you, Amy, and thank you all so much for inviting me to your campaign kickoff. It certainly gets the juices flowing to be at such an event. I've been involved in Federation my whole life. I can't imagine what it's like not to be involved and excited about the good things we do together. I know Richmond, and it's such a great community, a rich history, and great Israel and overseas connection. I think 80 plus years as a Jewish Federation. And to Ellen Renee Adams, your president, and Amy, who you just heard from, your campaign chair. I do want to recognize my colleague, good friend, Mark Sisiski, who is a president of the JDC, the organization we love so much. And I've worked with Mark here in his early part of his term here, and look forward to working together on JDC and JFNA's incredible partnership. Dan Staffenberg, Daniel, as you all know, graced my home community for several years in Metro West New Jersey, and you're very lucky to have Daniel as your CEO. So, and I also want to not just acknowledge all of you, but your foundation as well. I know you have the Harold Grinspoon Foundation Legacy Program, and to all the legacy donors tonight, welcome as well. So like I said, Federation runs in my blood, and like many of you, my family has a lot to do with that. Each of us seek a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives, in our community, working for a cause greater than ourselves, especially under the Federation umbrella. Like you, I learned this at home from my parents and grandparents. My parents and grandparents, were survivors of the Holocaust. They weren't just survivors, which by the way is something in and of itself, but to me they were both heroes and role models because they built something from nothing. They knew that for our community, surviving was not enough. We each have the responsibility to do what we can to ensure that we build a community that will not just survive, but thrive. And when we each think of our own personal journeys that fuel our individual commitment, when we join together like this, we move mountains. I see this over and over again in my work life and in my Jewish communal life. When we're all rowing in the same direction, our impact is magnified beyond belief. By the way, I also see this every time I watch football. And when the 11 players on the field execute the play as drawn up, with each person doing their part, our team wins. More importantly, when federations work together, each fulfilling their role, our community reaches heights it never would without being together. By going it alone, we will never reach those heights. And Richmond is stronger because Greater Metro West is stronger, because Sarasota is stronger, because Sacramento is stronger. When anti-Semitic violence happens, together we beat it back and thrive. When a pandemic hits, we work together and we survive till the day when we can again thrive. Our system is built for the long haul. We're about honoring yesterday, leveraging today, and most importantly, building for tomorrow. We prepare for the future through the recruitment and development of our incredible National Young Leadership Cabinet, of which I'm proud, as some of you are, to be an alumni. We live in the present, pursuing justice and the values of Tikkun Olam as we work together to advance civil rights, provide economic opportunities for the disadvantaged, and protect the most vulnerable, such as our survivors. These are the values I learned from my family and that my wife Jane and I have taught our 4 adult children now. It's because of those values that everyone in this virtual room has said tonight, Hineni, here I am. And that's why I personally have tried to give back of my time and resources to ensure the future. Let's face it, the next 12 to 18 months are going to be incredibly tough. We're facing a serious and prolonged economic downturn. The demands placed on organizations that provide food and shelter, mental and physical health care, and vocational support will grow tremendously. Philanthropists and government have already done a lot, but the real needs are just now becoming apparent. We must prepare ourselves for such a long emergency period. When the skies were full of planes bringing us to trips and conferences, the lack of an overall strategy to deepen relationships between the Jewish state and the Jewish people globally didn't seem as pressing. But now that the skies are closed, we're reminded daily of our shared work and our shared need to work together. You know, so much incredible work has been done on our national system across our communities. You know about our PPP work on Capitol Hill. The first time ever nonprofits have been able to participate in SBA loans. Nearly $500 million has gone to institutions all over the country, including in Richmond, and it has saved Jewish institutions. We've raised nearly $175 million from communities all over the country just immediately on the impact of COVID. We worked with the Jewish Agency for Israel on a $10 million loan fund for emerging communities that are facing serious challenges. We work with the JDC on their incredible mission. And we've had a Changemakers program, which is a special program geared for 20 to 25-year-old 3-week online program fellowship to learn about the Jewish community and how to get engaged. And I know Richmond in the first session had 3 fellows, and in the second session, 2 fellows. So Richmond is very much a part of this incredible program for young people, which thousands have applied for a need for connection, especially in these times. And Adam Lutz from your community is active in the August session. So COVID-19 is a new challenge, and it continues to unfold in unexpected ways, but it's the values we've carried with us for generations that enable us to respond effectively. The power of collective action, the necessity of collaboration, and the responsibility to care for the entire community. We are still lucky, privileged that we have the means to be part of a community and to help. But with that privilege comes a responsibility. That's why we know, especially in this virtual room, that if we continue to act decisively, we can move from a season of pain to a season of rebuilding and renewal. Please join me together as we meet the challenges we have before us. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Am Yisrael Chai.
Hey, Mark, thank you for those beautiful words and inspiring words of what your background has meant to you and your leadership at JFNA. And we'll be interested actually to hear about where you really started your philanthropy, at what age, things of that nature. I'm Nathan Shore. I'm a past president of Jewish Community Federation of Richmond and a fortunate past board member of JFNA for the intermediates. My term was just up, so I miss your leadership that I was able to serve under for a year.
Well, Nathan, good to see you virtually, and it has been a little bit of time, but thank you for your service, not just in Richmond, but to the national system and really working with our city size groups. That's a really important part of our functioning, so we appreciate it. And thanks for the question. I alluded to the fact that my parents and grandparents were survivors. My dad was extremely involved in UJA and all those missions. He was very proud of being part of all the building of the state of Israel, very much a Zionist, and whether it was Operation Exodus or any of the great things that we've done historically, he was very much a part of it. And for me, to be in those footsteps as a young boy and teenager, high school, escorting, tagging along with him as he went to Super Sunday and meeting different Congress people or volunteers, and myself being able to help out and try to follow that example. Those are memories I remember. And I mentioned Young Leadership Cabinet. You know, as much as my parents and grandparents had a strong belief, and I think we all feel this, we have those backgrounds, but we all have to have it a path on our own and to learn it through our own actions. And for me, that was National Young Leadership Cabinet. I met some people that I'm close to this day. I learned about the power of collective action, of activism, of speaking with a unified voice or a collective voice. And the chavrusa I had through that the Federation, we call it a movement, and I still believe very much so, that we're still a movement 100+ years on all over the country. And so those are the kind of things that made impressions on me, that inspired me to get involved. My parents' example and my own dealings with my peers along the way. And also now with having my own family with my wife, Jane, we want to make sure that legacy continues.
Thanks. And you mentioned about getting involved. There's quite a few people on the Zoom call here in our meeting, and some people are a little shy about how to get involved. How would you recommend people get connected with their local federation, and candidly with any involvement in any Jewish communal activities in the city, but specifically our federation?
Oh, it's a good question. The first step, one of the steps is showing up, and you're all here tonight. That is not a small step. We're all busy, even in the COVID world, and to come even into your living room and turn on a Zoom is still a statement that you're together. You're stepping up to whether give a gift, announce a gift, or be participating. But I think it's to do anything you can to be involved. I try to say to people, make a commitment, whether it's every holiday season or whenever you want to recheck yourself. Try to do one more thing Jewishly or community-wide than you did the year before. That's how we grow. That's how we get connected. And I know in my own personal case, I mentioned, my dad and the strong example he had for me. I mean, I used to get upset if I'd, shyly ask for a gift from someone and they weren't really inclined to do so. And we have to remember, all of us on this call, we're not asking for ourselves. Mark Sisiski knows this, the JDC, we're the voice of the voiceless. So when you're asking someone for a gift or when you're participating, you're doing it on behalf of a lot of people that don't have a voice. So you can't take things personally. I know it's sometimes not easy to either make a donation or ask for a donation, but we're in very troubled times, and we're very few. So we need to pull together as best we can and do what we have to do. I mean, I know, and even my kids pull me into things that, you know, they set an example to me. Came Pesach time, you know, we delivered here in New Jersey, you know, with COVID going on, the left food boxes on the doorsteps, and you could see elderly people that really hadn't connected with people coming out on the porch and picking up the food and all those little things. So I guess the bottom line is do whatever you can, do whatever makes you feel comfortable, and also maybe do something that maybe not as comfortable or as routine as you're used to, but just try to do a little more.
Thank you. Hey, one last question for you. Setting aside COVID and your short term as tenure of JFNA chair, what's really been the most motivating aspect of being the chair as long as you've been there now? Again, kind of hard to say because of the situation we've been in the last 6 months and the battle we've been fighting fundraising wise, but what is really the most remarkable aspect so far?
Well, it really, certainly, to your point, I mean, it's certainly not what I expected. And I think in any of these leadership posts, and you have leaders in your community, and you know this, it's not always what you expect. And certainly in this case, it's in spades. Certainly not traveling, being in communities, which I love to do, and going to Israel and doing that. But the fact of the matter is, there has not been a more meaningful time to be connected to community and really making an impact as we've had here. I put this along, I think, looking back on the historical timeline, there are the checkpoints of statehood, of course, wars, the incoming of exiles like Operation Exodus and Solomon and Moses. Those are historic moments that we've all been privileged to, or our family's been part of over the years. I think this is one of those times, and being privileged to be in the seat I'm in, and we're all privileged on this call to be part of, these people on the front lines. I know Daniel, as a professional here, I'm particularly impressed by the frontline workers in our Jewish community. We talk about doctors and nurses and all of this, but for the Jewish community, the tirelessness I see among our volunteer and professional leadership is remarkable. Lives are really being impacted. Lives are really, truly being saved. It's no small feat. It's something we should be all proud of. And I know we're not necessarily near any endpoint. Things are going to probably get a lot tougher. But again, I know I don't want to be trite about it because I keep saying it, but it's so basic, it has to be repeated. We are definitely stronger as a community and as a collective. That's who we are. That's who we've been for thousands of years. And I know it gives me energy to be with you. I hope you all get energy being together, albeit virtually. But we are making a true difference. So that's been what's remarkable to me, to be firsthand witness to heroism, to really rescuing and saving people, not just physically with feeding or educating, which we do, but literally the spirit. I think mental health is going to be a tremendous challenge going forward. I think people are not just solitude, but economic challenges, and that's something that's going to be a big battle going forward. But it's a privilege to serve, and especially in these times.
Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. The staff, professional staff, I know here and certainly across the country, it's tough enough to raise funds. It's even more difficult when you're doing it through a 13-inch screen, and to creativity to Daniel and Jesse and the entire staff at our local federation. You guys are doing a hell of a job trying to help us help the community. So I appreciate your time. I want to introduce two other people that got a couple questions. Miriam Davidow. Miriam is a long-term volunteer in this community, but she's actually a former JCFR staff person as well. Served a few times over there on the professional side. Miriam has been involved in the community a lot. And one more is Josh Goldberg. Josh is young, new to our federation. He is assistant treasurer and also head of our allocations department or committee, and is doing a wonderful job there. And I want to introduce both of them to ask you a couple questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan. And thank you, Mark, for joining us. I'm sorry that it's just virtual. At some point, we'll have to bring you down into the community. We're living in difficult times in so many ways. For those of us who grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust, the Shoah, the crisis at hand requires so much resilience to overcome the second generation trauma that we grew up in. We firmly believe that teaching youth about the Shoah and other genocides can help to bring about more understanding of the risks that a society faces when hatred and bigotry go unchecked. Here in Virginia and in your Viking state of Minnesota, we are gravely concerned about the lack of Holocaust knowledge among American millennials, quoting the JCRC of Minnesota and the Dakotas. While New Jersey has had a mandate to teach Holocaust education for almost 2 decades, Minnesota and Virginia don't have such a mandate for teaching the Holocaust, though each do have standards to be included in middle and high school, often loosely interpreted and loosely followed. Believing more needs to be done to effectively make a change, a commission has been approved in Virginia through the General Assembly and the governor during its previous session to make recommendations to improve upon current teaching of the Holocaust and other forms of genocide. Working with the governor's office on diversity of inclusion and the Virginia Department of Education, we are confident we can see additions to curriculum for all of Virginia's middle and high school students. What are your thoughts on the importance of Holocaust education in our schools today? And what suggestions might you have in navigating this issue as a tool to help ameliorate anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry?
Well, it's a great question. This is something I feel down to the very core of my being because of my personal story, of course. Very proud of the fact that I was privileged to chair a effort to fund care for survivors, which our Washington, D.C. Public Affairs Office was instrumental, working with Vice President Biden at the time and the administration, and now both party administrations have supported that. So we're proud to have been part of a $60 million campaign, and we just got renewed where the federal government kicked in $5 million a year, and they've renewed it this year for Holocaust survivor care. That, of course, they're our heroes and our educators. And to the extent, I don't know what Richmond does, but hopefully if you have a survivor community remaining or in your community, make sure your schools and your young people get a chance to learn from them and be with them and connect in any way. As far as resources to provide, I mean, the Never Again Act that just passed is something we're very proud of at the JFNA's Washington Public Affairs Office, which we all fund, including Richmond. 146 federations fund it. And we're very proud of the fact that that's going to provide several $1 million to the U.S. Holocaust Museum to provide educational materials for our schools. So listen, it's also an issue that's going to come up in the civil rights area. There's a 1619 Act also, which is going to be modeled on the Holocaust work, where African American history is also taught in schools. I know I'm diverging a little, but it's a very complex field. You mentioned about Virginia and Minnesota. To the extent I'd urge you to, and Daniel I'm sure knows all the workings about this, but our public affairs office can be helpful. I'm sure they have already, but just ways to navigate those political waters. And I don't know what you have in Virginia as far as that aspect. I know in Minnesota, Governor Walz is a very big proponent of Holocaust education. I've met him about it. And he's very much not only that, I believe he has a master's in Holocaust genocide education, which is fascinating to me. So he gets it really well. He's an educator, and I don't know the latest status on it, but it's something we continually advocate for. So I would urge you to work with our New Jersey office, which has been up in the front on the Holocaust education, work with our DC national office, and just public advocacy is not my a natural suit, but we have incredible professionals like we had on the PPP loans where we've shared information and expertise. So I urge you to touch base if you haven't already on that. And we have to make sure the resources provide, like the Never Again Act.
Hi, Mark. My name is Josh Goldberg. I'm the allocations chair for Federation, and I have the distinct privilege of asking the last 2 questions for the evening. In addition to my volunteer work, I'm also the co-founder of AJ Tickets, a sports ticket sales company, so in your space. So I have the honor of asking a football-related question as well. The 2 questions are, number 1, what is it like being an NFL owner during COVID versus normally? And finally, what parting words of wisdom do you have for our Jewish community as we embark on one of the more challenging years we've ever faced?
Well, the football is something that, that was our way for my parents and grandparents to integrate into American society, was taking us to sporting events. We grew up big New York Giants fans, and football was always a love of ours. Never could we dream that we'd be able to, thankfully, to be fortunate enough to be able to be part of the NFL. But now in our 16th season, it's been every minute has been a thrill, even with the ups and downs. We view ourselves and as owners in other sports, but for the NFL, we view ourselves as stewards of a great franchise, a great sport, and a great American tradition. And I think we're seeing that here coming up during the COVID. Of course, it's been a very different year. Love to be in Minnesota for training camp as often as possible. New Jersey and other regulations don't allow it because we have to come back in quarantine if we go there. All kinds of medical, legal, COVID protocols have been worked on for months behind the scenes by incredible, competent people. So it's been a very different experience. We love our team. We love the community of Minnesota. They've been great to us, and it's tough being not around them, but we're being creative. The draft was a very big defining moment when we were at a very low lull point in COVID that I think brought a lot of people together in a good way. And I think the goal is to have the games. I'm fairly confident we're going to have the games as planned. September 10th is the opener, and September 13th is our opener against the Packers. So that's the goal. The fans coming is going to be not at all, very limited. I think Kansas City's attempting to have the opener with fans. We in Minnesota cannot currently do the restrictions, but the reality is we don't know. There's so much uncertainty. We see today what's happening with college football. Some conferences, big ones already, are now starting to think about and even announcing cancellations of seasons. So we're in a very dynamic, and we have to be nimble. So again, I think it's something we want to have. Our players want to have it, our ownership, and I think the country wants to have these things if possible. But again, safe and health of the players and everyone in the league and our fans is our highest priority, and we'll work with all the local officials to make sure it happens. So that's the football story. I urge all of you, when things hopefully resume to some normalcy, come to Minnesota. I know a lot of Redskin fans, I believe, in Richmond. I don't think the Panthers have invaded you yet, but we'd love to host you, those of you who come up to Minnesota when things normalize. Parting words of wisdom for the community. I mean, I kind of said it in my opening, and the bottom line is be proud. Be proud, always be proud of the work we do. We, the Federation system, which is the broad Jewish community, the Kehillah, if you will, which includes great organizations like JDC and the Jewish Agency and all the communities we represent, and our connection to Klal Yisrael via the Israel and our overseas communities, our brothers and sisters all over. Always be proud of what we do, who we are, our traditions, and the fact that we take care of each other like an extended mishpacha. We are the 911 for the Jewish community. When the Tree of Life massacre happened, just a few weeks into my taking on this role, we were there when the Tree of Life massacre happened that Shabbat, because we were there the Friday before. And the same thing with COVID. When COVID broke out, we were able to respond as quickly and as powerfully as we did because we were there the day before. It's our infrastructure, it's our resources that are there when they're in a nice sleepy time when we maybe aren't getting the attention that everyone is used to. But when times like this happen, we stand up. We're in historic times, and it's all of you, our donors, our leaders, our contributors, that make it happen. So keep working hard at what you're doing, keep being the great community you are, and we will not just survive, but thrive as we always have for thousands of years. So those are my parting words. And again, I look forward to being with you, God willing, in person, not just virtually, very soon. Daniel, love the background, by the way.
Specifically for you.
Mark, thank you for your time. I must point out there's one person that just actually sent a chat to the crowd. The young man's name is Nate Muehlberg. Nate was supposed to be in Tokyo right now as an assistant coach for Team Israel. in the Olympics.
Great.
Nate,
God willing, next year, Nate.
yeah, so Nate, good luck with that. But that's a pretty exciting time. So you guys did great last year, and we're glad you could do that. Thank you for coming tonight. There's 150 of us, federations. You only got, what, 149 more to go for your time. We appreciate that. I do want to turn it over to our leader, Daniel Staffenberg. Daniel is in our third year here. As you said, he worked with Daniel at Metro West. We've been thrilled to have Daniel. Really fresh young leadership and some really creative ideas and really coming out into this time. So I'd like to hand it off to Daniel now. And Mark, thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Shalom, Mark. Thank you. It's
Come on inside, Daniel. It looks cold out there.
That's right. I thought you might enjoy that. I know how much you worked on that. It's funny that you and I got to travel together with JDC to Cuba. We didn't have a hitch, but to get together via Zoom, we have a glitch when we start.
It worked.
It worked. Mark, on behalf of our Federation President, Ellen Renee Adams, the well over 200 members of our community listening in, and myself, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening and for your leadership of our Federation system. And so many critical other general community endeavors. I know your mother and father are watching you from above with great pride, and I wish you, Jane, and your entire family a safe and healthy year ahead. It's such a testament to you guys that your business ventures span 3 generations, and I know that's important to you.
My mother's 10 miles away. She's still watching me.
That's right. This is an extraordinarily difficult and unprecedented time for Jewish Richmond. In the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak, we're all thinking of the health and well-being of our friends and loved ones, our children, our spouses, parents, and grandparents. We're also deeply concerned for the welfare of our Jewish community, where congregations, agencies, and organizations are all facing enormous pressure, even as the demand for their services increases. Our most immediate concern as a federation is for those vulnerable individuals for whom this outbreak presents the gravest of threats, including our older adults, families with financial needs, individuals with disabilities, and others. As the stewards of our community, the Jewish Community Federation of Richmond has been leading an urgent and coordinated response, and I want to make sure that's clear. I've been inspired by the way our community, our agencies, our synagogue, our leadership have come together in response. Federation and its network of agencies and partners across the community are working together to ensure that support is available to those in need and to anticipate future needs that may arise. Whether it be food and shelter, medicine, communication to keep from social isolation, technology, mental health services, and so much more. The truth is, the last 5 months have been a sprint just to get to the start of the marathon. And tonight begins our race to see how we as a community respond. The Jewish community our children inherit will largely be shaped by our response over the next few months. As Mark and Amy so beautifully shared, the challenges and needs are significant, both locally and throughout our Jewish world. Every dollar and every gift we receive will help us sustain and support those in need. Federation in our system is built for times like these. We know how to convene, we know how to raise funds, we know how to build and secure our community. Those skills are going to be vital as we respond to the crisis and do so while imagining a new and exciting tomorrow, unshackled from our regular, traditional, and standard. For goodness sakes, we're sitting here launching our annual campaign virtually. This year is surely going to be different. Federation is looking to build on 2 straight years of fundraising growth and is working, as Amy said, to make giving and connecting easier. This year, we're going to be out having personal conversations, even more whether they be via Zoom or socially distanced over a cup of coffee outside. We hope that you will consider being proactive in supporting the 2021 Federation Annual Campaign. And we've made some new and interesting ways to help you do that. First, as Amy mentioned, you can text 804-331-8311 with an amount $180, $36, $500, $10. Every dollar matters. Doing so, again, to text 804-331-8311. You'll be walked through our text to give process and be amongst the first to be counted. Second, please email, be proactive, and contact one of our Federation professionals or lay volunteers to hear more about the needs, how our community has responded, and how you can help. You might even learn how to take advantage of the tax incentives our advocacy helped put in place this year, including a $300 tax credit for those who don't itemize on their taxes, increased charitable tax deductibility for higher level gifts, and IRA rollover gifts, all critical for us and our institutions as we move forward. And lastly, you can go on to jewishrichmond.org, which right now is a vital resource to connect and communicate out into the community. Every agency and every synagogue, once they provide us info, we get it out there and you can find out how you can connect. It's about to, jewishrichmond.org is about to experience a total remake, and we're excited to get your feedback and involve you in that. But most importantly, go there today and make your gift, your increased gift. This year, the importance of legacy and estate gifts is perhaps more clear than ever. Institutions with robust endowments are in much better shape during this downturn. While we're focused on meeting the immediate needs, we as a federation are also planning ahead for a bright and strong future. Please consider leaving your legacy to the Jewish Federation and any of our agency or synagogues that matter to you. Our partners at the Richmond Jewish Foundation can help, and we are here to help make your legacy last and an impact forever. These dollars will also help us weather the next crisis, which we know will come. Thank you in advance for your support, for your response, and for being part of our special community. We're coming to the end of the program, but there's a couple special people I can't finish without saying thank you to. Amy Nissenson, our amazing campaign chair who has jumped into this job in this crisis time with both feet and a fantastic energy. Jesse Feld, our Director of Development and Engagement, has led and is innovating in new ways. I'm excited about what is ahead and how we build on our campaign. Nathan, Josh, and Miriam, thank you all for asking great questions, being part of our leadership, and making this a fun evening. I know it's hard to believe, but Rosh Hashanah is right around the corner. So our next Community Chronicles, September 14th at 8 p.m., will be a little different, although I understand Mark's a pretty good cook. We will cook together some delicious Rosh Hashanah foods with James Beard Award-winning chef Michael Solomonov of Zahav Restaurant in Philadelphia. Michael began cooking Italian cuisine at Vetri in Philadelphia. In 2003, his brother David was killed on Yom Kippur during a military campaign for which he volunteered. Soon after that, Michael Solomonov decided to change his focus to Israeli and Jewish cuisine and has quickly built a reputation for outstanding food and unbelievable experience. Registration is open now or soon will be on jewishrichmond.org, and we hope you join us and Chef as he walks us through a special high holiday menu and shares some of his personal stories. On behalf of those who your gift helps, I want to say personally, thank you for all you do and for all your response over the 85 years of the Federation and hopefully the 85 more, but especially to this remarkable and important 2021 campaign. We look forward to seeing you all soon, and thank you for all you do. It's my pleasure to now close the program. Thank you.